Alex sat at his modest kitchen table, flipping through the mail as the late afternoon sunlight streamed through the window. Bills and advertisements filled most of the pile, but one envelope stood out, a pristine white invitation, sealed with gold trim. Intrigued, Alex carefully opened it, revealing an elaborate wedding invitation from Mark, a college acquaintance he hadn't spoken to in years. Mark's name brought back fond memories. During college, despite their differences, Mark had been a rare source of encouragement for Alex, who had juggled scholarships and part-time jobs to stay afloat. Though their friendship had faded after graduation, the invitation sparked a pang of nostalgia. Still, Alex hesitated. The venue was an upscale estate, and Alex couldn't help but feel out of place just imagining it. His life was simple, working as a repair technician and enjoying quiet evenings at home. But after some deliberation, he decided to attend. Mark had been kind to him once, and this felt like an opportunity to honor that connection. Alex lived a quiet life, rooted in humility and hard work. Raised by a single mother who had struggled to provide, he had learned to appreciate small victories. While others chased status or wealth, Alex found joy in simple acts of kindness, like fixing his elderly neighbor's leaky faucet or volunteering at the local shelter. His work as a repair technician wasn't glamorous, but it was fulfilling. He took pride in solving problems others deemed unsolvable. Yet, he often felt the weight of society's judgment, particularly in social settings where his modest lifestyle clashed with the expectations of others. Despite this, Alex remained grounded. Years ago, he had helped a homeless man named Robert, an act of kindness that had left a lasting impact on him. Though Alex hadn't seen Robert since, the man's gratitude had reinforced Alex's belief in treating everyone with dignity. Little did Alex know, that moment of compassion would resurface in ways he could never predict. It had been a frigid winter night when Alex first met Robert. Exhausted after a long day of work, Alex had spotted a man huddled under a bridge, shivering against the cold. Without hesitation, he approached, offering his coat and inviting the man to his small apartment. Robert, gaunt and visibly weary, hesitated before accepting. Over a simple meal, he shared his story, a once successful businessman who had lost everything after a series of bad investments and personal tragedies. Alex listened without judgment, offering not just shelter but encouragement. "You'll find your way back," Alex had said. "You just need someone to believe in you." Before leaving the next morning, Robert clasped Alex's hand. "I'll never forget this," he promised. Though Alex had brushed off the sentiment, believing he'd never see Robert again, the encounter stayed with him, a reminder of how small acts of kindness could make a difference. The wedding venue was a sight to behold: lush gardens, shimmering fountains, and a grand hall glowing under the evening lights. Alex parked his aging sedan among luxury cars, his apprehension growing with each step toward the entrance. Inside, the grandeur was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and guests dressed in designer attire mingled, their laughter echoing through the hall. Alex clutched his invitation, feeling painfully out of place. Yet, he reminded himself that he was here to reconnect with Mark, not to impress anyone. When Mark spotted Alex, his smile seemed genuine, though it faltered for a brief moment. "Alex! Glad you could make it," he said, pulling him into a quick embrace. But as Mark's gaze flicked over Alex's simple suit, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in a world far removed from his own. Lisa, the bride, was radiant in her designer gown, her every move exuding confidence. But when her eyes landed on Alex, her expression shifted to thinly veiled disdain. "And who's this?" she asked, her voice sharp despite her smile. An old college friend, Mark replied quickly, his tone almost apologetic. Lisa's lips curled into a smirk. How charming, she said, her gaze lingering on Alex's suit. Throughout the evening, Lisa's condescension grew bolder. During a toast, she raised her glass and said, "To all the wonderful people who've been part of our journey, and to those who remind us just how far we've come." Her pointed glance at Alex drew laughter from her friends, leaving Alex humiliated but silent. The ridicule continued during dinner. Lisa, seated near Alex, leaned in with faux curiosity. "So, Alex," she began, "what do you do?" "I'm a repair technician," Alex replied simply. Lisa raised an eyebrow, her tone dripping with mockery. "A repairman? How noble. I suppose someone has to fix things, right?" Her friends chuckled, their laughter ringing in Alex's ears. Mark, sitting nearby, looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Alex felt the sting of his silence more acutely than Lisa's words. He had expected better from Mark, and the realization that his friend wasn't willing to stand up for him deepened his sense of isolation. By the time dessert was served, Alex had reached his limit. The weight of the evening's humiliation pressed down on him, and he decided to leave. As he stepped outside into the cool night air, the sounds of laughter and music faded behind him. Before he could reach his car, the distant hum of an engine caught his attention. A sleek black vehicle pulled into the driveway, its polished surface reflecting the estate's twinkling lights. A sharply dressed man stepped out, his confident stride drawing murmurs from the onlookers near the entrance. "Alex," the man called, his voice warm and familiar. Alex froze, turning slowly to face the stranger. Recognition dawned as the man smiled. "It's been a long time." The man's tailored suit and commanding presence were a far cry from the haggard figure Alex had once sheltered. "Robert?" Alex asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Robert's grin widened. "I told you I'd never forget what you did for me." He extended a hand, his grip firm and confident. "Come with me," he said, glancing toward the hall. "I think it's time we had a conversation." Alex followed hesitantly as Robert strode inside, his presence turning heads. The lively chatter of the crowd quieted, replaced by murmurs as guests speculated about the new arrival. As Robert entered the hall, all eyes turned to him. His polished appearance and confident demeanor silenced the room. Lisa, standing near the head table, glanced between Robert and Alex, her smirk faltering into confusion. Robert wasted no time addressing the crowd. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his deep voice carrying easily over the whispers. "I don't usually crash weddings, but tonight I had to make an exception for this man right here." He gestured toward Alex, who stood awkwardly near the door. "Years ago, when I had nothing, no home, no hope, Alex showed me kindness I didn't deserve," Robert continued. "He didn't judge me, didn't ask for anything in return. He gave me shelter, a warm meal, and most importantly, the belief that I could rebuild my life." His words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. The room remained silent, the weight of Robert's revelation washing over the guests. Alex shifted uncomfortably, his face flushed as every pair of eyes turned toward him. Lisa's expression had changed completely. Gone was the condescension, in its place was a mixture of shock and discomfort. Mark looked equally stunned, his mouth slightly open as he stared at Robert. Robert's voice softened as he turned directly to Alex. "Because of you, I got back on my feet. I started a business, and I made something of myself. I've been waiting for years to thank you properly, and I couldn't let this moment pass." He reached out, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. The room erupted into applause, tentative at first but quickly growing as Robert's story sank in. Alex stood frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Mark was the first to approach him, his steps hesitant. "Alex," he said quietly, his voice heavy with regret, "I'm so sorry. I should have stood up for you tonight. I let this get out of hand." Alex studied his old friend for a moment before nodding. "You should have," he said simply, his voice calm but firm. "But what matters is that you're acknowledging it now." Mark's relief was palpable as he offered Alex a sincere handshake. Lisa, meanwhile, remained rooted near the head table. She seemed to be grappling with her next move, her hands twisting nervously. Finally, she approached Alex. "I didn't know," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry for how I treated you." Alex met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Kindness doesn't depend on what you know, Lisa. It's a choice," he said, his tone steady. Lisa's face flushed, and she nodded silently before retreating. Later that evening, as the event began winding down, Robert pulled Alex aside. "There's something else I wanted to talk to you about," he said, his tone serious. Alex tilted his head curiously. "What's that?" "I'm launching a new initiative to help struggling entrepreneurs," Robert explained. "It's something I've wanted to do for a while, and I can't think of anyone better to lead it with me than you." Alex blinked, taken aback. "Me?" "Robert, I don't know anything about running a business. I fix things." Robert chuckled. "Exactly. You fix things, people, situations, lives. That's what this initiative needs, someone with integrity and compassion. The rest you can learn." After a moment of hesitation, Alex smiled and extended his hand. "If you're sure, I'd be honored." Before the night ended, Robert insisted on a final toast. Standing at the center of the room, he raised his glass. "To Alex," he said, his voice brimming with warmth. "A man who reminds us all that kindness is the greatest strength. Here's to small acts of compassion that ripple out and change the world." The applause was thunderous this time, and Alex, though still uncomfortable with the spotlight, couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. Lisa clapped along with the others, her expression thoughtful. For the first time that evening, she seemed genuinely moved, as if Robert's words had pierced through her carefully constructed facade. The following weeks were transformative for Alex. Stepping into his new role with Robert's initiative was both thrilling and intimidating. The office, with its bustling energy and sleek decor, felt alien to Alex at first. But Robert was patient, guiding him through every step and emphasizing that his authenticity was his greatest asset. Alex found himself mentoring people who had faced struggles similar to Robert's. Their stories resonated deeply with him, and he approached each challenge with empathy and practicality. Slowly but surely, he began to see the profound impact his work was having. Lisa, too, embarked on a journey of self-reflection. The events of the wedding had left her shaken, forcing her to confront her shallow values. She began volunteering at shelters and community organizations, initially out of guilt but soon out of a genuine desire to make amends. One day, while serving meals at a homeless shelter, she met a woman who shared her story of resilience. "Sometimes," the woman said, "just knowing someone cares can be enough to keep you going." The words struck a chord with Lisa, reminding her of Alex's quiet strength. Though the road to change was slow, Lisa found meaning in helping others, her perspective shifting with each act of kindness. As Alex delved deeper into his role, he found himself navigating unfamiliar territory. The meetings, business plans, and complex strategies often left him feeling out of place. Yet, Robert's unwavering faith in him became his anchor. "You don't have to be an expert," Robert often reminded him. "You just have to care enough to learn." Alex's approach to the initiative was refreshingly different. He focused on the people behind the struggles, listening to their stories and understanding their needs. His humility and practical advice resonated with many of the entrepreneurs, some of whom were inspired by his journey from repair technician to leader. One particularly challenging day, a young woman hesitated outside his office. "You're Alex, right?" she asked shyly. "I heard your story. It's why I decided to give this program a chance." Her words struck Alex deeply, reaffirming his purpose and the importance of what he was building with Robert. As the months passed, Alex became an integral part of the initiative. His unique perspective and genuine care earned him the respect of his colleagues and the gratitude of those he mentored. Robert, always quick to give credit, made sure Alex's contributions didn't go unnoticed. During a quarterly review meeting, Robert stood to address the team. "I want to take a moment to highlight someone who's been instrumental in our success," he began. "Alex's dedication and compassion have transformed this initiative into something truly extraordinary." The room erupted into applause, but Alex, ever modest, simply nodded in gratitude. Later that evening, as he walked home, he reflected on how far he had come, from a quiet repair technician to a leader helping others rebuild their lives. Meanwhile, Lisa was undergoing her own transformation. Volunteering at shelters and working with underprivileged communities had opened her eyes to a world she had long ignored. The arrogance that once defined her began to fade, replaced by a genuine desire to contribute. One evening, while preparing meals at a shelter, Lisa overheard a man recounting how a stranger's kindness had saved him. "He didn't just give me food," the man said. "He gave me hope. And that was worth more than anything." The words lingered in Lisa's mind, reminding her of Alex's quiet resilience. For the first time, she understood what Robert meant when he called kindness the greatest strength. Not long after, Mark appeared unannounced at Alex's office. He looked nervous, holding a small gift bag in his hands. "Alex," he began, shifting awkwardly, "I've been wanting to reach out for a while." Alex motioned for him to sit, his expression neutral. "I owe you an apology," Mark said. "At the wedding, I failed you as a friend. I should have spoken up when Lisa humiliated you, but I didn't." Alex regarded him thoughtfully before responding. "Mark, the apology is appreciated. But what matters is what you do with it. Friendship isn't just about words, it's about action." Mark nodded earnestly. "Lisa and I have both been volunteering. It's been eye-opening, Alex. You've inspired us more than you realize." The effects of Alex's work were beginning to ripple outward. Entrepreneurs who had been helped by the initiative were now mentoring others, creating a chain of support that extended far beyond the original program. One day, Alex visited a bakery run by a young woman who had once been on the verge of giving up. "You believed in me when no one else did," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "Now, I want to do the same for others." Her words stayed with Alex as he returned to the office. He realized that the impact of kindness was far greater than he'd ever imagined, touching lives he might never even know. At the annual gala for the initiative, Robert stood on stage, beaming as he addressed the crowd. "Tonight, we celebrate the incredible work of this organization," he began. "But we also celebrate the people who make it possible, one person in particular. He turned to Alex, gesturing for him to join him on stage. "It's time for me to take a step back," Robert announced. "And I can't think of anyone better to carry this mission forward than Alex." The audience erupted into applause as Alex approached the microphone, his emotions a mix of pride and disbelief. "I'm honored," he began, his voice steady. "But this isn't just my story. It's ours, a testament to the power of compassion and community." Lisa continued her work at shelters, determined to turn her life around. Her transformation was slow but genuine, and she often reflected on the lessons she had learned from Alex and Robert. One evening, she ran into Alex at a fundraising event. "Alex," she said, her tone warm and sincere, "I wanted to thank you. Your kindness changed my life. It made me see the world differently." Alex smiled softly. "It's never too late to start again, Lisa," he replied. Her gratitude was palpable as they parted ways, each carrying a sense of closure and newfound purpose. Years later, Alex found himself standing at the edge of a bustling community center. The building, funded by the initiative, now stood where he had once met Robert under the bridge. Children played outside while parents attended workshops inside. A young boy approached Alex, holding a small flower. "Thank you for building this place," he said shyly. Alex knelt, accepting the flower with a warm smile. "This isn't just my doing," he said. "It's the work of many kind hearts." As Alex watched the boy run off to join his friends, he felt a deep sense of peace. His journey had come full circle, proof that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples of change. The community center stood as a beacon of hope, a tangible reminder of what kindness could achieve. Alex often visited, watching as lives transformed within its walls. One evening, he attended a workshop hosted by a young entrepreneur who had once been part of the initiative. "None of this would have been possible without Alex's belief in me," the entrepreneur said, gesturing toward Alex in the audience. The applause that followed was heartfelt, and Alex felt a familiar flush of humility. Afterward, Alex walked through the halls, his thoughts drifting back to the winter night when he met Robert. He never imagined that moment of compassion would evolve into something so far-reaching. The legacy of kindness was no longer his alone, it had become a shared journey, woven through the lives of countless others. Mark's journey of self-improvement bore fruit when he organized his first charity event. The fundraiser, aimed at supporting housing programs for homeless families, was a success. Mark approached Alex afterward, his face glowing with pride. "I finally feel like I'm making a difference," Mark said. "And it's because of you, Alex. You set the standard for what it means to care for others." Alex smiled, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. "It's not about what I did, Mark. It's about what you're doing now. That's what matters." For Mark, this milestone marked a turning point. The lessons he learned from Alex became the foundation of his renewed purpose, a commitment to serve others with humility and compassion. One quiet evening, Alex found himself sitting by the same bridge where he had first encountered Robert. The city's skyline shimmered in the distance, and the faint sounds of traffic hummed in the background. As he gazed at the familiar setting, memories of his journey played in his mind. He thought about the humiliation he had endured at the wedding, the kindness he had shown to Robert, and the many lives that had since been touched by the initiative. The realization that all of it had started with a simple act of compassion filled Alex with a profound sense of gratitude. In the stillness of that moment, he understood that the ripples of kindness would continue long after he was gone. Lisa's transformation reached a pivotal moment when she launched her own initiative, a mentorship program for young women from underprivileged backgrounds. She used her connections to provide resources and opportunities that had once been out of reach for many. At the launch event, Lisa shared her story, including the humbling encounter with Alex that changed her perspective. "Kindness isn't a weakness," she said, her voice steady. "It's a strength that can move mountains, as Alex showed me." In the crowd, Alex watched silently, proud of the woman Lisa had become. Her journey of redemption mirrored his own belief that it's never too late to make a change. Under Alex's leadership, Robert's initiative expanded beyond its original scope. It now reached across states, empowering communities and fostering a new generation of leaders who believed in the power of compassion. One of the most inspiring moments came when a young mentee of the program addressed a packed auditorium. "Alex believed in me when no one else did," the young man said. "And now, I'm here to do the same for others." As Alex listened, his heart swelled with pride. These new leaders carried the torch of kindness, ensuring that the ripple effect would continue for years to come. Years after their last meeting, Robert invited Alex to a private dinner. The two men, now older but deeply fulfilled, reminisced about their intertwined journeys. "I've been thinking," Robert said, his voice thoughtful. "When I was at my lowest, you gave me more than a second chance, you gave me a future. I want to make sure this initiative reflects your vision moving forward." Alex shook his head, smiling. "This was always your dream, Robert. I was just lucky enough to be part of it." But Robert insisted. Together, they mapped out the next phase of the initiative, ensuring its continued impact for generations. Sitting in his home office one evening, Alex opened a scrapbook filled with memories, photos of community events, letters from those whose lives had been touched, and newspaper clippings about the initiative's successes. One photo caught his eye, a candid shot of him and Robert at the first community center opening. The caption read, "It all started with a single act of kindness." Alex leaned back in his chair, a warm smile spreading across his face. He thought about how far he had come, not just in his own life but in the lives of so many others. As the sun set outside his window, Alex felt at peace. His journey was proof that even the smallest gestures could create ripples of change, weaving a legacy of compassion that would outlast any one person.